Hello, lovelies. We're back with Shelly Massie, and we're just talking about the truth in her story. And I really would love to hear, Shelly, what was your experience in the church? I'm so fascinated with how things have been done, and my heart is to move forward, but I think we can't do that until we sit in the truth of how things have been handled, or our personal experiences with that. So I would love to hear about that.
Yeah. I had never really thought about mental health in the church. I just assumed, I think that I thought that the church would welcome and take care of and comfort those walking through mental illness well, because that's what Jesus would have done, right? So I think I just assumed, and I didn't come to Christ till later in life. I didn't get baptized until I was 25. I grew up Catholic, so I knew God, but I knew God very differently when I was younger. And I entered the evangelical church. I thought that is where all the broken could be safe and welcomed and loved. And I watched, from the stage, all of these testimonies, and I thought, well, then this must be the safe place for me. And there were good people there. I'm not going to discount that. There were good people there, but there was a lot that was wrong. We never talked about it. It was never talked about. We could talk about like pornography, of course, from the stage, or infidelity, or other things that we should be ashamed of, but we could not talk about real issues. And it became very clear after I came home from the adoption. I had a elder from the church come over, and she looked me right in the eye and said that I had unconfessed sin, and that is why I was suffering.
No.
Mm-hmm. And she said that she was there to pray for me, to pray for all of my unconfessed sin, so that God would heal me. I knew then it was not a safe place anymore. In fact, it wasn't until about 4 years ago that we walked out of the evangelical church forever. God had been really nudging us that it was time to go. And when we saw that they spent $10,000 on ice sculptures, yeah, it was time to go. And they partnered with someone in Haiti to build another orphanage. And I literally just stood up and walked out and said, we're done. But little did I know that God was really pushing us to leave, because another trauma was about to happen to our family, another mental illness, another, a trauma, PTSD, all of it was going to happen again to our family, and he needed us to be safe. And I'm really, really grateful for that. We entered into a small, quirky Anglican church that was meeting a few blocks from our house and the school my kids went to. And they became our safe place. They became our tapestry woven around us to protect us. I have seen the church shame people for mental illness, discriminate, marginalize. I have seen them take their mental illness and use it against them. We don't need more prayer chains. That's not what I need. I don't need a prayer chain. I need someone to enter in. That is one of the focuses, actually, of the book proposal I'm writing right now. It'll be called Jesus, Prozac, and Paper Gowns, and how the three coincide. Because I don't think we can do any without the other.
Wow.
And I truly believe that church leaders, church laymen, they have the most to learn about mental illness and mental healing. I don't think the people in the congregation do. I think they're the ones suffering. But I would also say that there are probably a lot of people in leadership that are suffering, and they're lonely, because they can't say the truth. They can't say that they are frozen on the highway and can't drive any farther because the anxiety has overtaken them. They can't say that they can't get out of bed for days, or they haven't showered for days, or that they have racing thoughts, or, I mean, these are things that they just can't talk about. Yeah. I saw very clearly after we had left, a family was shamed, and the wife worked for the church and lost her job because her son had been in inpatient, and because of the stigma that it was going to cause the church.
Wow. Yeah.
And that's not fair.
No.
It's not fair.
You know what? It's crazy for even people, like me and you that are sharing. I mean, sometimes I even get panicky, like, oh my goodness, what if the school district Googles me? And then, like, I even still fear, like, would I be fired? Or were, for a plethora of reasons, we had to put our daughter in private school, and it is a Christian private school, and I did have an existential crisis about that, but that's a whole other story. But I fear that the moms or someone will Google and like, yeah.
Yes.
So I hear you with
Yes.
with that. That's terrible.
Yes. Because shame is such a liar. It makes you believe that who you are is not enough, and that your story, that you're not brave enough. And yeah, I'm so sorry to hear that. But I too understand that. And yeah, whenever I go anywhere with my husband and we meet some of his soccer families, and the moms will say, "Oh, I've read your writing," and they just kind of, and I'm like, awesome. Yeah. So you're not going to invite me over for tea or what?
Can I still come? Yeah.
Right.
No.
Right. But then, it's also opened doors of, like, I'll get messages of, I thought I was the only one.
Oh, yes.
And that makes me so sad, because one of the things, I guess I'll go to this. One of the things that has happened that has been well, and it's not just the church, it's actually just been a community that I've cultivated, is they've entered in. Yeah. And they've stayed. And yes, we've lost some friends. We've definitely lost some friends, because pain hurts and suffering hurts. And when you enter into the suffering of others, it exposes your own suffering.
Yes.
And sometimes it's too much to bear, and that's okay. It's okay if that burden is too much to carry and you have to walk away. I understand that. I do now. But I also think if we are brave enough to enter into the brokenness of others, it will be the most holy place we have ever stood. I read recently that when you enter into a broken place with someone, it's customary to take off your shoes, because then you can feel the holy ground. And so there are many days that I walk around barefoot, because the suffering of others around me, just so I can feel that holy ground. And so I've had friends and neighbors, because we live so far away from any family, we had to create our own family, and we have been beyond blessed with this community of really ragamuffin faith community. We question, we argue, we are for everyone welcome at the table, and that does not get, a lot of approval from, the evangelical community, but whatever. There are moments in particular where I've had a neighbor friend whose husband just came over, and he just met my husband at the door with yellow flowers for my daughter. And all he said is, "I understand." And he walked away. And it was just that act of a man doing that, which was, I think, remarkable. But just to say, you don't need to have all the answers. You don't need to, like, if you give me a freaking Bible verse, I will spit it back at you because I don't need that. Like, don't tell me that. Just enter in with me. Sit there with me. Ask me how I'm feeling. Ask me what I need. And sometimes if I don't know what I need, cover me with a blanket. Give me a glass of water. Let me cry. Brush my hair. Do something to know I'm not alone. We've had friends one night that I was trying to get dinner ready and the knock at the door, and she just came in quietly, didn't say a word, set down a tray of chicken soup and bread and walked away. And all that act of this bread that was baked for us was, I want to join you at the table of suffering. Like, that is it. These are the people in your life that you need to gather when things are good. And you won't, I would say, gather authentic people around you. Gather people around you that have known suffering, that have known pain, that have experience with mental illness. Gather a Kim around you. She and I would argue, and we'll still argue sometimes, because she is a type 1, like, know-it-all. Like, she knows all the facts and about everything, and it drives me nuts because I am a 4-2 and like a dreamer and a gatherer and just the creative. Like, that's what I want to be, like, head in the clouds all the time, and it drives her crazy. In fact, anytime we go anywhere, she walks faster than me, and I'm like, let's, like, just stay with me. Like, let's just take in what's coming. And she's like, we have to get there. We have to get things done. Oh, wow. I love her to death. But she's also like, have those list of people. So I don't know if you do, Shaley, like, do you have a list of things that keep you healthy? Like, do you have like a list of, yeah. So like, I have a whole list of things that keep me healthy, a list of things that don't keep me healthy. I also have a list of people, my safe people. Really? And that's always, that's one of the tools that has helped me. If I am finding myself like really agitated and really on edge, kind of slipping, I'll kind of think, am I spending time with these people? Or am I spending time with people that are not on the list that make me forget?
Or people that it doesn't matter how hard you try, you just keep trying to explain, and they just don't understand or aren't willing to understand. I mean, I get that it's very confusing and that, but you just know the people that are closed off and or always worried that all your actions are going to be seen through that lens.
Yes.
Oh, like, Shayla's just being dramatic because she's bipolar, or, what she has to say isn't valid because she might be in a hypomanic state.
Yes.
Or that, yes, hanging out with those people are being surrounded. And sometimes you don't have a choice, that you have to be around certain people. But I love what you said about, trying to spend more time. So it's almost like more time so that you can be filled up to spend time with others that may not understand that.
Yeah. Or if you feel yourself slipping, or not really slipping, or just feeling like I could use a check-in, just, call one of those people on the list and say, can we go out for coffee? Or can I just talk to you about some thoughts I've been having and what that entails. If I'm really honest with you, there was a time where I couldn't actually be around Kim. She reminded me too much of the trauma of that really dark place. And we were really honest about it. And I said, I love you, but right now it's kind of triggering for me. And I want to really work towards, moving past that. And so we had to go back and like look at all the good things that happened though through it. And really, put those in the forefront of all the goodness that came from it. So that was good.
She understood. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, because
So I would say like, oh, sorry. No, I would just say like overall, like the church, we can do a whole hell lot better. We have to. Amy Simpson is a friend of mine. She wrote Troubled Minds, and she's really been helpful at being a voice as well in the church. She talks a lot to Amy Simpson. She wrote Troubled Minds. Her mom actually has schizophrenia, and she teaches church leadership how to enter in and how to talk about mental illness, but also to come alongside the families of those that have mental illness, which I really appreciate that too, because I do believe that we also can do a whole lot better at that. Especially I think of my husband, who's had to carry, you know, and even my oldest daughter who has seen it all and lived through it all, that she also had support to talk about her anger and her own fears for herself and for her getting older and, you know, eventually wanting to have a family, what that would mean for her. So I think just that mental awareness of, and just mental, I don't know, could we have like mental honesty?
yes,
You know, could we be as honest about our DNA as or our mental illness as we are about our DNA?
Yeah.
You know, like, could we be that transparent and not shamed? Like, I know, like, when I go to fill out things at the doctor's office, like a new doctor, and they're like, have you been this and this? And I'm like, well, yes, but I need you to hear the whole story.
Yeah, you want like this much space. You don't just want to click the box. You're like, but da, 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 da. And when I fill out those forms too, whenever I have to fill them out, I have to say depending when, because I have the bipolar. So yes, I completely experienced this during these 6 months. And this, like, there's just not enough place in the forms. Like, give us better forms. It's interesting what you were talking about the church. We've kind of been going to visiting a smaller one because we still haven't quite, you know, left our bigger, we kind of have feet in different places. And the small church that we're going to right now, Open Door Church, with beautiful name, right? They're doing a series on mental illness, and I've been a part of the video, and they're going to interview me next week. Yeah, so exciting. And they actually want stories that aren't wrapped up in a bow, because when we do generally talk about mental illness in the church, there's healing, or there's this or that. And he was I love that they're willing to do this, and we're excited and sought out this. But he was talking about this Sunday about how there isn't resources, because of course, you know, as a pastor you pull from different things, and he was talking about he could find like a cajillion articles about these 5 Psalms will help you, or these da-da-da, but not actually you know, about sitting in it, or what we need to do differently. So I love that your friend said that, and I love that. I wish he had your book, which I'm sure he will, because I will get it in his hands. But yeah, I think that's when we talk about how we can move forward in the church, is even how he ended the church. You know how at the end you're like, have a good week. He was like, you know, have a good week or not, right? And I was like, yeah, why not? Right? Because you might not. And when you come next week, you don't have to say, yeah, I had the great week that you were hoping I had, right? Just or not. And you know what? It just sat in my chest for the day. And I was like, that, you know, a lot of people would be like, oh, that's depressing or whatever. And I found it so freeing. And just, yeah, I just loved it. But yeah, it's really interesting. He's wanting to talk about these things, but having a hard time, you know, finding certain resources. And I think that's where we need to spearhead things. And I think too, sharing the stories while people are in it. And I get that a lot of people don't, it's not just like the church or in different places. A lot of people don't want to share when you're in it. right? And I thought I was kind of past that. And this fall, I never actually spoken like on a video or done any of my public speaking when I'm like in a hypomanic state, because I don't know what's really going to happen or come out of my mouth, or how if I'll be all, you know, physically all over the place as well. And I felt really called to do that this fall. And you would think that I would be used to it, but it was hard. It was really, really hard. And I was like, okay, if I'm having trouble doing this, you know, can you imagine, you know, that kind of thing. So yeah, having you come and speak about this means the world to me. And I know there's a lot of people that aren't ready. And I say all the time, the reason that I do video is because I read a lot of things, but when I was going through it, I would have been desperate to see a face. I would have that would have just spoken to me, just to be able to see someone. So like, I can't even tell you how much I appreciate you doing this and how powerful and meaning it's going to be. If there was one last thing that you would want someone that's neurotypical and or supporting and that is just starting on their journey and learning, and maybe a pastor or leadership, what would be one of those really important things?
Well, I think one of the things I think I would say to those that are in it right now, and this is not your forever. Your mind and your body are telling you right now that this is your forever. But I am promising you that healing will come. And it will be a process, and it will be painful and beautiful in the same. I would say to those caretakers, push closer. You're doing hard, holy work. Push closer, find support for yourself. And to church leaders, be willing to say you don't know. Be willing to point people to trained clinical therapists and psychiatrists. Do not bring this before the elder board. Do not put people in front of other people to shame them. Do not tell them it's a spiritual attack. Never do that. Never associate the God that created us would condemn us and take us apart, because you will lose people quickly. I would say if you do not know where good therapists are, reach out to those in your community that do, and have a list of resources available. But as a leader and as a pastor, stop bringing casseroles and start to bring Christ.
Whoa, bam. Yes. Yes. How can we end on a better note than that? Yes. Oh, thank you again. This is so
You're welcome.
life-giving. And yes, to any of you lovelies that are struggling right now, we'll have some resources or phone numbers attached in this post. And so, yeah, thank you.
Thank you, friend.